On this project, we're going to be taking an image from a magazine, and we're going to cut the image out so that we are only left with the head and part of the torso. You're going to make sure to cut off everywhere the hair falls. You don't want to leave any hair left in your image. Okay, once you have the image cut out, you would take that and glue it onto your paper. You can choose where you would like to glue it onto the paper. I'm going to glue it closer to this edge so I have more space to fill the paper up with hair. Now that I have the face, I'm going to start designing the hair, and you can do whatever you would like when you are designing the hair. I have divided the paper up into several sections so that I can do different patterns and designs in each section to create different types of lines. Okay, so we will have parallel lines, weighted lines, perpendicular lines, contour, and implied lines. So here, to create an implied line, I have drawn a line to know where I needed to stop all of my other lines. And now I'm going to go back in and erase that line so that there is no longer an actual line there, but your eye will still see an implied line because all of the other lines stop at that same point. Okay, so now there is no actual line here, which creates an implied line. So you can see as I have begin to fill in the hair, I have implied lines created by a lot of lines stopping at the same area that creates an implied line. I have implied lines here where I created shapes out of these circles that cut off and make it look like triangles. Okay, but there are no lines actually there to create these triangles, so those are implied triangles. I have weighted lines. These lines here are weighted or thicker or darker than the rest of the lines on the paper. Okay, so those would be weighted lines. I have perpendicular lines. These lines meet each other at a 90-degree angle. Perpendicular lines here, 90-degree angles as well. I have parallel lines. So these lines are parallel to each other. There's an even amount of space between them at all times. They never cross each other. Okay, I have parallel lines here. These also could be considered parallel lines. These two lines here never cross each other. They have an even amount of space between them at all times. These also are parallel lines. Okay, so I have parallel, perpendicular, implied, weighted, and then a contour line, a line that defines the edges or surface ridges of an object. So these lines right here define the edge of the hair, and these lines here define the surface ridges of the hair. Okay, all these different sections, these lines that create these different sections are surface ridges. And then there's also the outline. Okay, so I have contour lines, implied lines, parallel and perpendicular lines, and weighted lines. I will continue filling in these spaces and creating more of those types of lines, and then I'll also do a design into the background to finish out the entire paper. The entire paper should be covered with lines.